Okay, so hello. We will again begin with the opening prayers. Naturally, it's important to not just read these different branches of practice, homage, offerings, confessing, and so forth, but to understand first of all, that you're not alone reciting these in whatever place you happen to be, but you should, in the space in front of you, invoke or imagine that you are in the presence of the Buddha and all of the three jewels of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, one's own guru, inseparable from the Buddha. And that you are motivated, your attitude is one of aspiring to enlightenment for the sake of all beings who are part of your awareness as well. And in particular, according to this sutra way of practicing, it's appropriate, or it's taught how we should multiply our own body and think that millions of us, millions of your body, speech, and mind are all reciting these practices, and more importantly, that each practice is kind of doing its intended mission of purifying one or another of the kleshas, pride, pride, clinging, anger, envy, jealousy, doubt, ignorance. All of these kleshas, each one in turn is being sort of let the wave of your awareness of what you are reciting sort of wash away each one of those kleshas, each one of those poisons of the mind, so that you come to an attitude or a disposition of clarity that comes from having purified karma and accumulated merit. So with that in mind, then we'll begin the prayers. I pay homage with my body, speech, and mind, filled with devotion to all Buddhas without exception, those lion-like heroes of the past, present, and future, who dwell in all worlds throughout the universe. With the power of these aspirations for excellent conduct and my devotion I bow before all victorious ones as they manifest to my mind, prostrating with as many bodies as there are atoms in the universe. I envision that there are countless Buddhas abiding on every atom in the universe, each surrounded by hosts of bodhisattvas, completely pervading the basic space of phenomena. With never-ending praises sung to an ocean of melodies, I extol the perfect qualities of all victorious ones who have arrived at a state of bliss. I offer to all these victorious ones sublime flowers, garlands, music, and balms, beautiful parasols, brilliant lamps, the purest incense, the finest clothes, and loveliest fragrances, vessels filled with sweet-scented powders, piled as high as the king of mountains, the finest, most exalted array of all excellent things. I offer these as well to all the Buddhas. With the power of my faith in excellent conduct and my devotion to the Buddhas, I pay homage and present them with vast, unsurpassable offerings. I confess each and every negative action of my body, speech, and mind that I have committed under the influence of desire, anger, or ignorance. I rejoice in the meritorious deeds of Buddhas throughout all directions, as well as bodhisattvas, pratyeka Buddhas, arhats beyond training, those still in training, and all beings. I request that those lamps of the world, the protectors who, free of attachment, have attained the enlightened state of Buddhahood, turn the wheel of the unsurpassable Dharma. I join my hands and beseech those who may wish to pass beyond all suffering to remain for as many eons as there are atoms in the universe in order to bring benefit and happiness to all beings. I dedicate whatever virtue I have accumulated through prostrating, offering, and confessing, through rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating, however slight this virtue may be, to the enlightenment of all. The earth is perfumed with scented water, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, and the sun and moon. By my imagining and offering this as a Buddha realm, may all beings come to enjoy pure realms. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnirya Tayami. To fulfill the needs of all beings, levels of understanding, we request that you turn the wheel of Dharma, including the lesser and greater, common and extraordinary approaches. Okay, so next, make up your mind that you will listen to these teachings with the intention to put them into practice as best you can in order to attain a state of perfect awakening. So we are on the 8th chapter, which is the chapter of meditation, meditative concentration. And that chapter has 3 parts to it. The first section was, the first section was and still is the teachings on how to dispel, overcome the force of distractions, so to disempower the compelling undertow of our thoughts, along with their emotional partner. And then the second part is the teachings on equalizing oneself with others. And then based on that mentally created atmosphere, or that mentally created attitude, I don't know, we could say it's a mental state. And based on that mental state of having equalized oneself with all others, then the third phase of meditation is exchanging oneself with others. And of course, these are, as I emphasized, these are mental exercises that, of course, throughout the text, there's always an allusion, a reference to bodhicitta being a practice of love and compassion for others. And so that's not something newly introduced here. The intention of all these chapters and each section has to do with developing different levels, I suppose, of our levels, meaning the coarseness and roughness of our anti-bodhisattva habits. Anti-bodhisattva habits and non-bodhisattva habits. In other words, bodhisattva thoughts and habits and mind that's just simply not yet present. But here it's taken to a point where we are also using the equalizing oneself with others and exchanging self for others, or exchanging places with others, as a method to actually antidote duality, antidote the subtle, the more subtle driving force of our view, of our behavior and our actions, which is the idea of a self being distinct from the other. Whether it's me in relation to you and other people or other beings, and or me in relation to my universe, both the inanimate and animate universe. There's always the sense of being the sense of ownership. I look at the moon and I experience certain feelings when I look at basically my moon. So this idea of equalizing self and other and exchanging self for other really undermines that the rigidity and habit, the hard and fast habit of that. And so, of course, that then sets the stage for the subsequent chapter on prajna, wisdom. Yeah. And so right now we are so interesting that how, I mean, this text, Shantideva was 7th century India. And it was apparently it was one of the first texts that to reach Tibet and translated into Tibetan. Who had Tibetan into Tibetan language, which had just been basically invented the previous, during that time period, or during that sort of few generations. And they took this Indian poem, which for a Sanskrit reader, a native Sanskrit reader, supposedly it's one of the most beautiful compositions you can imagine, what I've heard from other people, and put it into Tibetan. And of course it had been revised and several times over the centuries, but the message is so, it's just so relevant, and so it's just interesting how even though there's certain cultural references here, and also the fact that Shantideva was a man sort of born and bred as a monastic, it's still the message he was, how he talked. Basically, I'm always reminded, because this section we're approaching here is basically Shantideva talking to himself.
and how he talks to himself is how the messages and the slogans that he's using here have been transmitted down in an unbroken lineage of listeners and teachers and applicators, practitioners, since that time until now. And it's a large part of it is because it's still so darn relevant. It's so about how our mind is right now and how we would like it to be. That bodhicitta impulse is hooked by this text. So in the section then where we are, which is exchanging self for others, there was the beginning part, or where we've been. What we've covered with this are Shantideva's advice on how to actually carry out certain types of exchange. Now, there are different types of exchange. Exchanging happiness for suffering, exchanging, as we were before, exchanging almost doing a body exchange. It's not just appreciating someone else, what they're going through, but it's also putting them in your place. It's a complete exchange, not just what they say, until you've walked in somebody else's shoes idea. But here's until you've walked in their shoes and they're walking in your shoes and you're looking at each other, And so that's what this is, that kind of exchange. So there were those pieces of advice about that, where you're actually changing bodies or changing status with someone and then looking back. And so forth. Then, so there's other kinds of exchange also, but here that was one of the main topics. And now we are, of course, we are at, by the way, I believe we're at 159, which is the beginning of sort of the post-meditation practices. And so verse 159, we started on this from verse 155 on to where we are now, with sort of gentle reminders, what are called gentle reminders. Then later on, we should get to those. Today now is the more forceful reminders. So it's just from the Patrul Rinpoche's way of teaching. Then these were divided up into these categories of gentle reminders and forceful reminders. So on verse 159, now for others you should spy on everything your body seems to have, steal it, take it all away, and use it for the benefit of others. Of course, when Shantideva, now again, he's talking to himself, and not he's talking to himself, he's
basically he's talking to his mind. When he says you, he means you, my mind, should look at what your body has now. In the past, Shantideva is probably saying in the past, he looked at others, other things that people had with some sort of a maybe a kind of a manipulative attitude, envious, a little envious, and it says like you should spy on everything your body seems to have. In other words, you're looking at what you have as though you're looking through others' eyes at what you have. In a commentary, it would mention how he was just glossing the word spy as being like a dog watching somebody cut up meat. Like something should fall off, he grabs it, like this kind of spying on them. I think there's one quote there that says, dogs don't spy on people cutting cloth, which means if they're cutting meat, that's spying. So in the past, he's referring in the past, and I think, and I noticed in other like mind training teachings, because of the monk, people were monks. I suppose they were always because they have no personal belongings to speak of, and they live off the good graces of others, charity or begging and so forth like that. And so there is this possibility for always checking others and how much they have, and you're looking how much you have, almost like kids in school with lunches or things like that, and so what now he's saying is that your mind, he's telling his mind that his mind should steal what his body has and give it to others who have nothing and benefit. Take what is owned by my body, say clothes, possessions, all these kinds of things, and steal it and give it to others in a way that will benefit them. It's almost like you're telling your mind to envy what you have in order to and steal it, because envy means envy is the pain of it's a painful awareness that others have an advantage. And along with that painful awareness of others enjoying something that you don't have, there also arises the desire to enjoy it as well, or to have it. I think that's a workable definition of envy. And so here we should be envious of what we have and steal it and give it to others. That's what the mind, because it's not basically the idea is that our habits of possessing and protecting are something that has been accumulated in our consciousness over lifetimes. And it's possible even our acts of generosity are very calculated. So here, in order to go deeper into our habit, our habit of clinging to our possessions, which, as I think even in the first chapter, it brings out how if you remember, what is it that, what's the ground or the platform or the ground, the foundation of ego clinging? Maybe I should ask you these questions, see if you remember what they are. But the foundation for ego clinging is attachment to possessions, to our bodies, and to our kind of qualities, our virtue. That's why in the second chapter had to do with making offerings to start to yank the support of our clinging, of our self-clinging away. So here, I think using the term steal is interesting in that it requires kind of a cutthroat approach to benefiting others. And of course, out of our love and compassion, we want to benefit others. But here, I notice that it's not that prominent. Here, the emphasis is on cutting duality. And by undermining and cutting duality within the context of that non-duality, there is naturally present true compassion. So here we don't have to talk a lot about compassion so much, it seems like, or even there's not even the mention of, like usually in at least in the Tibetan approach, it's always about considering all sentient beings as having been at one time or another one's kind mother. All mother sentient beings. That's very almost common opening way of developing love and compassion, returning the kindness of mother. Here, as a meditative concentration, as a paramita, that really in order for meditation to be a paramita, to be a transcendent meditation, there has to be some understanding of non-duality. And so it seems like that's the emphasis here is on this whole chapter is coming to a break in the continuity and the habitualness of self-clinging. And so then and 160, okay, here, I indeed am happy, others sad. I am high and mighty, others low. I am helped while others are abandoned. Why am I not jealous of myself? So here actually is not, this is Shantideva actually sort of uh, drawing a distinction between himself and others in that, hey, I'm a monk. I don't have to, I'm a disciple of Buddha Shakyamuni. I'm an ordained person who's held to their vows. I'm very happy. I'm content. Others, when I look at others from my point of view as a monk and as a happy person and as a practitioner of Buddhism, of the Dharma, and with my learning and so forth, I see how others are experiencing suffering as a result of bad behavior. And Shantideva is saying that I have few possessions. I don't have to worry about family. I don't have to worry about paying taxes. I don't have to worry about things that are causing others to suffer so much. I am in I actually, people make offerings to the Sangha, of which I am a part of, and I'm not ashamed of that. Here he's saying that. Other places he's not. But here he's drawing a distinction here in that, I'm helped. I have support. I have teachers. I have patrons that are always willing to support me, and others are kind of cut off, and they're experiencing all various forms of isolation and being harmed by others or by the system. And so here, as he's saying, like, that's not right. That's not right. That's unfair. And so what this last line here said, here it says, why am I not jealous of myself? Really, it means like, I should be jealous of myself. I should be jealous and, like kind of enraged. Like jealousy has to do with sort of hostility towards a rival that has, towards a competitor, a rival who enjoys something that you don't have. It's not accompanied, like envy is accompanied by desire, but jealousy is a hostility towards someone who enjoys some advantage. And so all these things, he should, his mind should be jealous of that and give it away, as he says in the next verse, 161, how he's now he's not going to think negatively towards others, or say negative things, or think negatively towards others. And he says, happiness, fulfillment, these I give away. And the pain of others, this I will embrace. So all my possessions and enjoyments, I'll wish them to make others happy. I wish to make others happy with them. And give them away mentally and whatever you can. And in return, I will take the pain of others onto myself. Poverty, abuse, and so forth. Now, seeing things. You know, in the past I didn't do that, you may say, but now I've become a bodhisattva, which we have to remember. That's what the whole book hinges on the third chapter of entering into the path of the bodhisattva. So now that's been introduced to me. I've thought about it, accepted it, and I've seen the benefit of it. And so now I will practice this exchange of my happiness that I have to acknowledge I have, and I give it to others. Like when we're, and these are sort of introspective, conversations you have with yourself, just walking around, driving around, sitting around, always introducing these thoughts into your mind. Your mind is thinking something. So recognize that probably it's thinking something that has to do with that's fundamentally self-clinging, self-cherishing, self-protecting. And so introduce talk to yourself in these ways, as Shantideva is doing for himself. Happiness, fulfillment, these I give away. The pain of others, this I will embrace. Then the second part, inquiring of myself repeatedly, I will thus investigate my faults. So with the kind of the light of the path, with introspection, I will look and try to find my own faults, kind of like a flashlight. Yeah, really powerful little flashlights now. Flashlights are really powerful. So this, now we should use that kind of mind of examining our own mind, and I think here the idea is, don't take what you've understood to be what you need to renounce and avoid and apply it outwardly towards others. But look, apply the light of your understanding of what it means to be a bodhisattva practitioner and uncover your own flaws, your own kleshas. Investigate my own faults, find them, examine your mind to find them, question all acts of your body, all your speech, all your thoughts, and see them, see where there are shortcomings and reject them. It's like Chakra Rinpoche always talked about in the Sangha and in general, but usually it has something to do with somebody complaining about somebody else. He's always taught how we should not use the Dharma to examine the faults of others, but to use it to see your own faults. That the Dharma is not a window through which to see others, but it's a mirror to see your own mind. So that's always I think that's that's one teaching, short teaching, that is a key point as a human being. Yeah. So even if we like Shantideva was saying here, perhaps in the next verse, when others are at fault, I'll take and turn the blame upon myself. So usually, and probably for a long time, we've developed the habit of shifting the blame onto others. And so now, as we strive on the Bodhisattva path, we no longer conceal our faults and blame others, but we take the faults of others and see it as our own shortcoming. It's my own inability to see the perfect Buddha nature that's already present in others. Like there was bodhisattvas in the past have sacrificed their lives for others, took punishment for others. What do you call that? What do we call that? Exchanging places with someone. Now, our English legal system, you can't do that probably, but even Patrul Rinpoche is one of his main students, most renowned students. When he was traveling and when he was just wandering around, he was a great perfection master and had many disciples. Patrul Rinpoche would send certain disciples to him. He saw one. Must have been up in the eastern, Tartse-do or someplace eastern where there was a Chinese town. There was someone who was going to be executed for stealing something. Anyway, he was being executed for something. And he was so moved by compassion for this person. And he was going to be killed by he was going to be strapped onto an iron horse. And the iron horse would be filled with fuel and set on fire. And he'd be strapped onto that horse. And so he told the authorities that he would take that punishment and to let this person go, who he had never met before, didn't have any idea. He was just so moved by his compassion. And so he did that, and then he died. He was not old. And that was 1800 and something. So that's just a more current example of the taking the blame on yourself and freeing others from theirs. And all my sins, so when others are at fault, I'll take and blame myself for that. And all my sins, however slight, I'll declare and make them known to many. So however slight, my little thought, I'll reveal that and publicize that to other people, and acknowledge it and confess it to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and vow not to repeat even the small little selfish acts like that. This is what is this? The way of the Bodhisattva. So then the next one, see, these are all the kind of going through various aspects of what we can, as a category, call the 8 worldly winds. We want to be praised. We don't want to be blamed. We want to be, we want, to have, we don't want to be poor. We want to be comfortable, and we don't want to suffer. We want to be rich, these kinds of things. So the fame of 163, the fame of others I will magnify, that it might thus outshine my own. Among them I will be as one who serves my lowly labor for their benefit. So here, assuming, like, we can assume that in the past we praised ourselves and we tried to suppress the good qualities of others, kind of kept it hushed up so that our qualities would be well known. And so now he's saying the fame of others, when any excellence that are exhibited by others, I will amplify that. I'll make that very well known, so that someone else will be perceived as better or greater, or whatever someone else is famous for, whatever excellence they may have. I will amplify and magnify their excellence, however handsome or beautiful someone is, however they have a better phone, or a better job, or a better car, or they're more intelligent, these qualities. They have their meditation is better, say. So we'll glorify and praise and amplify those qualities and others, so that our qualities, whatever qualities we may have, won't be noticed. They'll be kind of obscured by how excellent others are doing. So that idea, that's our mission, to make sure that happens. Among them, I will be the one who serves. I won't make others serve me, but I will, I will serve others. And at all times, I will cultivate, humility. And what is it? My lowly labor for their benefit. So I will devote myself to securing the benefit of others in a very, with a low profile. Like no one will. I think the ideal is that whenever you do something that's beneficial to others, the best case scenario is that no one knows you did it. Even you see like even a piece of litter, and look, I'll make sure nobody sees you, and pick it up, and then take it and put it where it's in the right hole. But make sure nobody sees you. Never think, oh, look at me, I'm creating a clean world here. Something like that. Okay, then 164. This ego is by nature rife with faults. Its accidental gifts I should not praise. Whatever qualities it has, also contrived that they remain unknown to everyone. So this is that idea. So our ego is basically just a can of, it's just a container of flaws, of faults. Of course, thinking that there is a ego, thinking that there is a self, is the fundamental flaw. And on top of all of that, it's just a contaminated outpouring. But we may have some activities that turn out well. We may have intelligence. We may be learned. These kinds of gifts. We should think of them as just accidental. Like, oops, I knew that, but I really have no idea what, that we don't want to be praised for any of these, what he talks about here as accidental gifts. Whatever qualities it has, also contrive that they remain unknown to everyone. So we should think of any qualities that that we may have. We should keep quiet about them and think of them almost like when people make money by stealing, by some illegal means, that they have to take that money, then they can't spend it, right? They can't just up and spend it because it'll expose them to being arrested for stealing it. It'll expose them because what is it? I guess because it will outstrip their status. Something just can't start buying lots of cars and mansions and things like that. Like, you're going to have to account for that money, and it was stolen, so you're going to keep it on the lowdown, on the what do you call it, lowdown? No, on the, keep it quiet. Basically, you hush it up, keep it quiet. So we should we shouldn't. Any qualities that we may have, we shouldn't use them to improve our situation, says. It's Buddha taught how, or Buddha's quote is here. Do not advertise your qualities, and do not conceal your faults. So that's the teachings of the Dharma of Buddha. Do not advertise your qualities. Do not conceal your faults. 165. All the harm in short that ego does to its advantage and to others' costs, may all of it descend upon itself to its own hurt, to others' benefit. So all the negative actions, all the words, all the all the negative things that we've said with our voice, and all of our harmful actions, and all of our thoughts, all of our negative thoughts, basically all of, in order to sustain ourselves or to improve our situation, we've had to harm others. We've had to steal and kill and lie and abuse, and we've had to do these things in the past. And basically we've used others. We've sustained or improved ourselves at the cost of others. We can't help it. This is samsara. It's not that we can't eat from now on, or we can't walk from now on, but this is just the nature of samsara. So in the bodhisattva conduct, our bodhisattva, the quality of our conduct has to be such that it overpowers any negativity, both in the present and especially in the past. It could be entirely possible, I suppose. This is just my own thinking here, that our from this moment on in our practice, we will not harm others. I suppose that might be possible. Until we attain enlightenment, we'll be on the bodhisattva path. But no matter how clean we get away with things, and no matter how pure we try to be in this life, we're carrying the burden of our past. And that continues to distort our actions, our bodies, our behavior, our speech, and our thinking. And it all lies at the feet of the whole, all of that. The fault of all of that is ego clinging, self-clinging. We should always tell ourselves that and remind ourselves of that again and again. And now we are saying, may all of it descend upon me. In other words, we are owning, I guess the current way of talking would be, we're owning our karma. We're acknowledging that it's my self-clinging that has created so much negativity in the past that right now I am in a position where up to a point I can deal with it. I can purify it through my bodhisattva attitude, through the methods of the sutras and possibly tantra. But my taking of refuge protects me from falling into the pit of the lower realms of samsara. And so I am calling it up. May whatever I have done in the past, may the results of that negativity land on me now. Okay? And may my karma be purified, and may all my karmic debts, the debts I have with others, be paid. So this has all of the status I've tried to acquire, all the possessions, all the money I've tried to earn, all the fame I've tried to publicize, all of that has created negative effects. So may it all descend upon me now. And may that relieve the suffering of others. And may I be able to benefit them by having purified my karma and paid my debts, so to speak. And even in the sutras, and of course in the skillful methods of Vajrayana, there's many practices that are debt paying off debt practices. I don't know if it's like going to bankruptcy court or not. I've never had the direct experience because it doesn't relieve you of your debts, but it does. I'm not really sure what I've had a good. I've escaped that way of going, but these practices we have of let's say lenchak means karmic creditors. Are very important. It's a real gift. Part of the richness of the Dharma is to have practices where we can specifically, not specifically like A is antidoted by B sort of idea, but just in general, we have karma, and probably because of our dualistic basis for our actions, karma always is about relationships and involved with others, positively and negatively. And everything we do in samsara contributes in some measure to samsara.
that is to say, to the nature of samsara, which is suffering. And so karmic creditors are those who we have, our consciousness, our mind has taken from, or killed, or uh, harmed in some way in order to either sustain our life or out of aggression or out of passion or hatred or just brute stupidity. We've established, not only we've created negative action from our kleshas, from our afflictions, hatred or lust or stupidity. But then we've also acted on it, which usually had something to do with someone else. Right? So there's the negative motivation of our afflictions, and then there's the instruments that our hands or our mouth or our weapon or our stealth or whatever it is. We've used physically and verbal ways of executing that mental affliction, and it involves someone else that we have harmed. And so not only do we have to experience the results of that negative action, but there's also this relationship with the other person, or with the one who we've harmed. So even if we were able to, purify karma, then it's questionable. I don't know what becomes of the negative relationship we've had with others. And so by the methods, of course, this practice of exchanging oneself for others is a very powerful method to actually antidote this relationship we have with others. And then there are also these methods, because when things happen to us, something happens to us, or something interferes with our success or something. And so those entities that seem to be thwarting our success are those who we have harmed in the past. And we can think this way. Huh? All they're doing is either intentionally or probably, I don't know what percentage, but inadvertently, they are delivering us the results of our negative actions. They're like the agent, our karmic agents. They're our debt. It's like the bill you get in the post office. The postman delivers it. I don't know what the connection is, but they're participating in the experiences of our own harmful actions. And so through taking and sending, and through exchanging, and through various ways of making offerings and practicing, then we can pay these karmic debts. In other words, we can pay them down or pay them off, purify our relationship with those who we have harmed in the past and who we are not yet aware of.
Okay, 166. 166. Verse 166. Do not let it strut about the place so arrogant, so overbearing, but like a newly wedded bride, let it be demure and blushing, timorous and shy. So basically, we're talking about, Shantideva is talking about me, my ego, my mind. Don't be arrogant or overbearing, but like a newly wedded bride, because now we're going back. This probably doesn't, well, not like in 7th century India, even the newly wedded bride, that was a time when bringing the bride home to the, what is it, groom. The woman goes to the home of the man, and there's a whole system functioning for generations in that house or that compound, multi-generational system. And so now there's a new woman coming into that system. And so they don't come in. They have to be very demure, is it? And humble, and not look somebody in the eye, not answer back. Make sure that your ears are open if somebody calls your name, that you go like this, always very tentative and tiptoeing, like that. Because the punishment is severe. So he's saying, like that, like a newly wedded bride, let it be demure and blushing, timorous and shy. I'm blushing. Basically, what the advice to us here is, or what Shantideva is giving his own mind advice, is to be nervous about being arrogant or headstrong. Be nervous about that. Be anxious about being impolite, and know how to move, know how to move, or basically, let's say, when you're moving, know what's going on with your body, your speech, and your mind. And when you're staying in when you're in one place, when you're at rest, when you're still, know what's going on in your body, speech, and mind. So keep all your power, or your senses, I guess, your power, like the power of seeing, the power of hearing, the power of smelling, the power of tasting, the power of touch. Keep those powers always keep them in your awareness and be aware of what they're doing and under control. In the chapter on vigilant introspection, there it's all laid out. You can refer when you come to this. If you want to know the details, then he's already talked about them there. There, the intention might more have been towards noticing our mental afflictions. Here it's about undercutting ego clinging. Okay, 167.
do this, do that, do this, be like that. Such things don't ever do. These are in quotes. This is I suppose this is kind of a reference to the monastic system of a disciplinarian. You know, if you do that, you'll get punished. That kind of idea. So if thus that you will bring it forcibly to heal, and if it oversteps the mark, well then apply the lash. Okay, now he's getting a little bit not so gentle. But basically, you bring your mind to heal, bring your mind to, basically you involve yourself with the practice of the discipline of the Bodhisattva. Strive at virtue, abide in benefiting others, avoid negative actions. These are the three disciplines of the Bodhisattva. And so use your mind to control your body and your speech. And use whatever antidotes work for you. Antidotes that you've become somewhat familiar with, and then when you use them, then they'll become that much more familiar. They'll become that much more at hand, so to speak. And so then he goes into the more forceful way of discussing with your mind, discussing with your mind how to conduct itself on the basis of exchanging, that will support. This is all ways of supporting. These are all like slogans to support your practice of equalizing self and other and exchanging self with other. You just can't do those two practices and then when you're done practicing that, like for however long you're able to do it, and then just go about your business. This is what you do when you're going about your business. You bring these kinds of slogans to the front of your mind. Create a new subconscious gossip with yourself. And so, thanks for that to Tumba Rinpoche, subconscious gossip. So, mind, if still you will refuse, though you have been so lengthily advised in the previous verses, since every evil has its roots in you, you are indeed now ripe for punishment. So these self-cherishing habits are old and continue into the present. Still we refuse, even though we have this sort of flushed with enthusiasm for the Bodhisattva path. But the minute we get up and go out, or our mind is just stubborn. So if our self-cherishing habits continue, and though you've been so lengthily advised, in other words, as it says in the beginning of this chapter, and on the beginning of every chapter, I believe, or on many of the chapters, there is a initial discussion on the benefits or the advantages of cultivating whatever it is, carefulness, vigilant introspection, bodhicitta, and there is discussion on the disadvantages of not cultivating bodhicitta, making offerings, carefulness, patience, and so forth. So we've learned those things, and we should contemplate those things so that logically, in other words, logic will be on our side. And that's an advantage when we want to change our mind. That's like neurotic, has something to do with when you know that something is disadvantageous and you do it. It could be you didn't know the advantages of the opposite. Like we know about the disadvantages of anger, but we should also be fully imbued, we soak ourselves in an understanding of the advantages of being patient, which is the antidote to anger. So these kind of things we should really, as just beginning bodhisattvas, we should really pay attention to. Even I told people in the past, like even in a notebook, make a list, like draw a line down the middle of the page and then write all the advantages on one column and all the disadvantages in the other column of qualities, like of the chapter heads, so that it becomes really clear, and you can even then extrapolate from those even more on your own, because this is a real key part of the practice. So we've been lengthily advised on what we should do and what shouldn't do, the advantages, disadvantages, about the ego habit of mind. Ego, or all of our negative habits, are not in our bodies. We should understand, like the body doesn't commit negative actions. The speech doesn't commit negative actions. The mind commits negative actions. Every evil has its root in you, meaning self-clinging. You are indeed now ripe for punishment. You have to be treated more severely. It might even look to outsiders as like antisocial, or not antisocial, but not so good, Hit yourself. Slap yourself in the face. Then it'll sharpen your. When I was a kid, no, this is a footnote. I don't even know if I should be saying this. When I was a kid, like kids do, I don't know, maybe boys do. I spit. You know how we used to spit all the time when you're a kid. Oh, every like 10 seconds, spit. I was getting older, and it wasn't. I noticed it, and I thought, that's not so good. So every time I spit, I slap myself really hard in the face, and then it stopped after a while. So that's my personal experience with the benefits of self-abuse. In the text, it says, if monks aren't supposed to eat after a meal, afternoon meal. And if you complain about that, or you say, oh, I can't do that anymore or something, then they say, then don't eat at all anything for a week. That will fix your complaining of that. It says in the commentary. This Balta Rinpoche, remember. But, what do we want? We want something that's out of the reach of our ordinary mind.
You don't think your way to enlightenment, to awakening, and you don't behave yourself away. You don't behave yourself to enlightenment. It's not that you become so well behaved, then you slip into awakening. That's not how it works. It's really cutting ego. The time when you could do me harm is in the past, and now is here no more. So now I've learned about you, my mind. I've known that you're the one to blame. This where will you escape? Where will you escape, since now my mind, my bodhicitta, my intention to awaken and shine a light on that path that exposes ego clinging as the culprit, as the great obstructor. Now I've seen that. Maybe now I've glimpsed that, or now I've learned that. And so basically, now I'm in charge, mind. Step aside, mind. I know, I see you. I'll bring you down with all your haughty insolence, all your self-seeking desire, all your self-seeking profit, and all the the 8 worldly winds that you feed on, and blow me sort of through a life of weakness and negative actions. Now I've seen who's doing it, is this self-clinging. Like it says in the Lojong 7-point mind training, drive all blames into one. Drive all blames into one means anything that happens, inner, outer, in between, that all is ego clinging, and you have ego clinging. Let every thought of working for yourself be utterly rejected, cast aside. Now that you've been sold to others, stop your whining, be of service. In other words, now that, as we did in the practice of exchanging, we've made everything of ours is now others. They are me. So we may still have sort of a persistent residue of thinking, well, I'm sure we do, that even in the face of all of the above, we still think that there's some, well, I really do need to act for my own interests. There's still some self-interest needed. And so here it says, let every thought of working for yourself be utterly rejected, cast aside. Now that you've been sold to others, in other words, now that everything is of ours belongs to others from the exchange, stop whining and be of service. Now, and 171, let's see, 171, what is this? Okay, we only have one. For if through being inattentive, I do not deliver you to others, you will hand me over, it is certain, to the guards and janitors of hell. So if we don't make others more important than ourselves, then this self that thinks it's important will be our worst enemy, will continue to be our worst enemy. So if I still have the thread of self-interest, then that self-interest will cause me to be inattentive. Like it says here, if through being inattentive, I do not deliver you, my self-cherishing mind, to others, then I'm doomed again. I'm really stuck in this samsara. For this is how so many times you have betrayed me, you, this self-cherishing mind, and how long I've suffered. Now my memory is full of rancor. I will crush your selfish schemes. So now my memory is filled with rancor for what my self-clinging has done. And I'm deciding that I will crush your selfish schemes. So that's kind of we need to reflect on that and then make a decision to eliminate, to uproot self-interest. And so it is that if I want, and then 173, and so it is that if I want contentment, I should never seek to please myself. In other words, if I want this real ongoing contentment, it doesn't come about as we've referenced several times. It doesn't come about through self-interest. If we want happiness, we shouldn't work for our own benefit, but work for the benefit of others. Joyfully work for the benefit of others. And likewise, if I wish to guard myself from any suffering or inconvenience or pain, then of others I should always be on guard. I should be the protector of others, not of, as Shantideva was saying, I shouldn't protect myself, I should protect others. Okay, so we'll end at that point today, and then looks like it'll be finishing up next time. Yeah.